Breaking BYU news, and shout out to our friend Dick Harmon and Tad Walsh of the Deseret News for breaking this story. There's been a shakeup in the BYU Athletic Department, Ben. Kalani Sitake will no longer report to Brian Santiago. He will instead now report to Keith Vorkink, who is what's his official title?
Advancement Vice President.
Advancement Vice President for BYU. He's actually Brian Santiago's boss. So all this drama, Ben, and we talked about Kalani had a chance to, say, hey, everything's good and we're all on the same page yesterday, and he did not do that. And now this is announced, this shakeup coming. So I'm curious to your initial response, because this is news breaking. I mean, this broke right before our show, so it's not like you have had all day to crunch on it. So
my agent's going to handle all that stuff.
Apparently quite ruthlessly.
Quickly, Vorkink did offer a statement to the Des News. I'll read that for you quickly. Given today's dynamic athletics landscape, we feel it's important to be providing more administrative support, not less. We've made recent hires with that in mind, and we're also organizing in ways we believe will support BYU's world-class programs. Obviously, this is fallout from Kalani's interview initially at BYU's golf tournament, saying, I want more resources. I basically promised more resources, and I'm not getting them. Dick Harmon did come on our show early last week, and I thought was exceptional in revealing some of the details of what was happening here. He felt like he was assured that things would be made available to him that have not been, and now he's frustrated because he's had success and he's put himself in a position to be successful, and he feels like he needs a little bit more to get there, and he's not getting it. And when this news first started to break, and then Kalani went and spoke at practice and said, you can call my agent if you need anything, and we said, well, that's a weird thing to say. Why is the agent handling this? One of our early concerns was, you don't want Kalani going around Brian Santiago to get what he wants. I'll tell you who really doesn't want that is Brian Santiago. But that's where we are. I mean, this is you're skipping your boss to go to your boss's boss. The fact that Kalani has the power to do that, I think probably tells you who's actually in charge here. Because if you're told to fall in line, you have to fall in line. If your boss says, no, you report to this guy below me, that's who you report to. That's not what's happening at BYU now.
The guys on the show before us gave a couple of examples of other coaches that don't report to athletic directors. Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. With that in mind, I don't know how functional Arizona's athletic department is or why that should be an example to anyone, but this is going to be a disaster. This is a disaster. You've got two competing entities within the athletic department. So I get it that maybe this is a real kind of almost convenient way to solve the problem of two people that can't work together. You say, okay, well, now this one doesn't report to this one. But getting to our point about you can't be a football and a basketball school at the same time, well, now you have them not related. They're competing against each other within the same athletic department. So how is that? And now you've pitted football against everybody else, not just basketball, but quite literally everybody else. Why? If you're hiring an athletic director, you have to empower that athletic director to do the job. If the athletic director is doing the job poorly, then you need a new athletic director. Finding a workaround doesn't seem to me like a really productive solution. It just seems to me like convenient, I guess, or you don't want to fire somebody who's been with the program for 20 whatever years it is, 29 years. And listen, I'm not advocating for the firing of anybody. I just don't see how this solution turns out to be functional in any way, shape, or form.
You have two kids, I have two kids. Occasionally they get on each other's nerves with each other, not my kids and your kids. You can't put a line of tape in the middle of their room and expect them to say, well, you stay on this side and you stay on this side, and there's not going to be any carryover, or they're not going to notice what the other person's doing. And it seems like that's what BYU's attempting to do. They're trying to put a line in between these two things that truthfully have to coexist and they have to work together. Because the other issue here I see with this is while Vorkink will now oversee Kalani Sitake in the football program, Kevin Young has to report to Brian Santiago. Now, I know Brian Santiago's a basketball guy by all reports, and that should be, where he wants to go, I guess, ideally. But if he doesn't get what he wants, does he now want to take the Kalani route? Why does he say Kalani gets his own specific person with a higher boss than I have? I'm supposed to be okay with that now? I'm linked in with these other 19 programs that don't produce revenue, and I've got to be a part of all that, or share revenue with all of them, or share NIL with all of them, and then Kalani gets his own deal. Kalani's got his own thing going over here. He's got his own direct line. He's got a bat phone to my boss's boss, and I don't have that same thing. So, yeah, it's not a good design. It's not ideal. It's particularly bad, in my opinion, for Brian Santiago, but I don't think it's good for basketball necessarily. It feels to me like Kalani Sitake won this battle. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, I'd be shocked if Kevin Young were complaining about being under Brian Santiago.
Not right now,
because
sure.
Brian Santiago delivers for Kevin Young.
He's giving him what he's
That's
needed.
the problem.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, Brian Santiago has been too overzealous in his advocacy for basketball. He has. When he said football is king at BYU at his press conference or whatever, it would appear he didn't really mean it. So if I'm Kevin Young, I'm not complaining about anything because right now I'm landing the best transfer in the country. I'm landing great freshmen. I'm landing everybody. Brian Santiago is delivering for Kevin Young.
Okay.
Kalani wouldn't be complaining and going around him to the boss if Brian Santiago was delivering for Kalani.
Lloyd's our boss. Lloyd's always given me what I've needed. In fact, he just came in and delivered me news right before the show started about an event we've got coming up. Great. Thank you, Lloyd. If you decided that didn't work and the boss's 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 boss here at KSL, Tanya, came down and said, okay, Jake, you don't report to Lloyd anymore. You report to Nate. Okay, I report to Lloyd. You report to Nate. If I ever have an issue with Lloyd, and that whatever it is, now I'm going to say, well, Jake doesn't report to Lloyd. Jake reports to Nate. Even though right now Lloyd's making me happy, the same way Brian Santiago right now is able to make Kevin Young happy. But if that gets disrupted, he's going to wonder why things are being treated differently. And I think that's totally normal. So yes, to your point, your athletic director needs to be able to handle this. And if he can't, you might have the wrong guy. And again, that's not to say you need to dismiss Brian Santiago, but the fact that they couldn't find common ground here to work this out is actually not the ideal outcome. This is a flawed outcome.
Yeah, I don't think it's functional. No, I don't think it's going to be a functional solution going forward. And by the way, doesn't Keith Vorkink have something better to do?
You would hope so.
He just inherited a whole department. Doesn't he have something better to do than was he just hanging out and doing nothing? And now he's going to be over the entire football department? Mm-hmm. In addition to, I guess, being another layer to the rest of the athletic department, it just seems like a mess to me. And I don't know. I guess it's what you've got to. Because listen, the status quo was going to lose you Kalani at the end of the year. Uh-huh. So I don't know if this is enough to appease him that he would consider staying. But BYU is going to have a good season. A big program is going to have a job opening like it always does. And Kalani's agent, who apparently is very talented, would get Kalani in a lot of those interview rooms. And let me tell you this, I bet he kills the interview process. Mm-hmm. I bet there's a reason he rose right to the top of the Penn State list, because in person he's absolute magic. So he's going to be able to have a top-notch job after this season, and unless he wants to stay because he's a BYU guy and he's getting the resources to accomplish his goals. I mean, it goes back to our when he made the gangster threat. Mm-hmm. I'm the nicest guy in the world. Yeah. Everybody loves me.
Right. I take care of everybody.
When my team gets what they want, but when they don't, I don't know. I'd look pretty good on the sidelines down there in Southern California when stinking eventually
because
implodes.
They'll give my guys what they want, what they need.
Right.
They'll give me what I need. Yeah, absolutely.
And no longer do I feel a bond with BYU because you guys ticked me off.
Well, and we've talked a lot about this from the Kalani perspective. To adopt the Brian Santiago perspective, this is really tough for Brian. This is not a good look. I mean, your football coach is the most important person at 90% of 90% of college athletic departments. There are some where that's not the case necessarily. Kentucky, that's not the case. Arizona, that's not the case. A couple of these big-time blue-chip basketball schools, the head basketball coach, Tommy Lloyd is a good example, is more important than the football coach and is going to continue to be more important than the football coach. But, man, your success is so closely tied to the coach. And when you have the right coach of your football team and you're the athletic director, you've caught a wave. And ideally, things should be golden for you. Mark Harlan probably is, whether they got along or not, really benefited from the fact that Kyle Whittingham really knew how to do that job. He was in control of that job. He made Utah's athletic department look very positive, regardless of what was happening behind the scenes. I don't know. But it was able to gloss over whatever issues there were because Utah won 11 games last year. Kalani wins a lot of games. He's going to win a lot of games this year. He's going to win a lot of games next year if he's still at BYU. And ideally, if you were Brian Santiago, A, that would look good for you, and B, you'd be in lockstep with him. And clearly you're not. You don't even get to be his boss anymore. So you've cut him off at the legs.
Yeah, absolutely. And Santiago didn't get it done. He considers himself a get-it-done guy. He didn't get it done for the football program. He got it done for the basketball program, and I think that's where the rub is. Again, we have a promo running where we were talking about landing Jackson Kohler and how terrible the timing is. Awful. It's just another thing, another basketball win. And if anything, Kalani's being a little jelly, where he's saying, why is the basketball team all of a sudden a blue blood and we're spending in the middle part of the Big 12? Mm-hmm. And he's got a point. So why didn't they get it done? Why aren't they spending at the top of the Big 12? Man, it's easy to spend other people's money.
It's really easy to spend other people's money. It's probably easy for people, again, the reporting that came down, again, I think from Dick Harmon was that, he was ready to move on and ready to go with Jay Hill as the head coach, and people above him came down and said, nope, Kalani's going to be the right guy for the job, and we're happy to have Kalani here. And they made him a promise. Somebody made him a promise that he was going to get something that couldn't be delivered, and this is where we ended up. And again, this is just the starting of another probably can of worms. I think it will calm down for a little bit. This probably does appease Kalani. This probably makes Brian's job a little bit easier starting next week, doing a little bit less. But again, you don't take an athletic director job to do less.
Oh, you wouldn't do less if you were Brian Santiago. What would you do?
No, you want to be in charge.
Oh, no, I would work painstakingly to make sure the basketball program gets every single nickel that's not nailed down. Uh-huh. And I would make the football team do my best to steal every resource I possibly could from the football team and put it into the basketball program, because now I no longer even have to pretend that I am looking out for the football team in any way, shape, or form. And I know this about part of the reason there is an imbalance of resources is there are big-time basketball-specific donors at BYU. You can have more of an impact in basketball. All these things that we've talked about. Well, now Santiago can take the gloves off and
he doesn't have to worry about football.
And doesn't have to worry about football, or if anything, he's now, this was my point, he's now competing against football.
Right.
In the same pot, essentially.
The success of BYU basketball now means more personally for Brian Santiago than football did, and again, that's just a really bad design.
Terrible. Yeah, it's dreadful. And once again, a reason why there is a hierarchy at most universities. There's a reason that the baseball team is putting up the fencing for the football team, because the football team's more important. And there are egos, and there is a hierarchy. There is a competition for resources.
As you've said a lot, it's really hard to be both a basketball and a football school.
I don't think you can do it.
Very few teams are able to do it even remotely.
This is part of it.
Yep. This is a huge part of it. Yeah, you have limited resources.
Can you imagine if the Toop, Bill Self, didn't get his shooting guard, but he watches the football team land a star linebacker? Oh, I'd be furious.
Of course.
You'd be absolutely furious. Man. Interesting days down at BYU. I can't wait to read the book. Duff Tittle should write a book. I don't know if Duff should, but somebody should write a tell-all.
This to come when BYU is entering what should be a golden era is really brutal. The golden era of BYU, obviously, is Lavelle in his prime and, what he did in the mid-'80s and, of course, what they did with the Cotton Bowl in the '90s. But this is a chance to get back to major, major, major prominence at BYU. And for this to be the story, just got to drive you nuts.